Good evening, good afternoon. How are you? Welcome along, back again. Inspire and be inspired. Another motivational conversation and occasional life hacks. Today, I am going to be talking to two gentlemen who will be sharing their thoughts and experiences on men's mental health matters. I'll begin by saying thank you to everyone for joining me live and to anyone coming back and checking out the recording. Throughout the course of the conversation, please feel free to make any comments. You'll see your comments come up on the screen. We'll also see them inside the chat, and the guys who I'm talking to will also be able to read them and come back and respond to them at some point. So without further ado, let me take you to my guest today. I am joined by Mr. Si Gracia and Andrew Goss, aka Gossy, as we're lovingly calling him this afternoon. And I will introduce both of these guys individually. I'll start off with Si, somebody that I've known for many, many years on the music scene. We've actually spoken on Soulful House Mafia talk quite a few months ago. Can you remember when it was, mate? Because it's surprising how quick the time goes, right?
I don't remember when it was. No, it was me and Bob. So I think it was May, maybe.
It was a good few months ago. It was a good few months ago as well.
Yeah.
So Si is DJ from the South Coast, now relocated to North Devon, and he is very active in. Well, I'll let him explain exactly. You could put it probably better than I could because I'll be using all the wrong terminology. So tell me exactly what it is that you do and how you got involved with it.
Basically, we just started. Well, me actually started. Was it last year before? It was before lockdown. Actually, yeah, it was just. It was end of first lockdown coming out. Yeah, end of coming out the first lockdown in between. So we started doing walks for men on the beach. Basically, I take the dog down, set up a Facebook group page called Man Up, which was almost like as a bit of a terminology here in the pub. For God's sake, man up for men to be able to talk, and it just go for a walk along the beach, really. See who came along, and we just went for a walk and a chat, just talking about stuff, just a place for men to share.
So it all came out from lockdown.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I was. I'd had a very toxic relationship for 8 years that brought me to Devon. I decided to leave that relationship for my own good. I moved out the home and everything else. Had a decent home. I'd say it was a decent life, but materially it was a good life. Do you know what I mean? But mentally it wasn't. Moved into rented accommodation, and that it just rattled me mentally. And I put on Facebook. I'm as you know, I'm like you, social media. I'm active on Facebook, posting stuff, pitching, doing this, doing that. Not really for the gratitude of likes, more of just I put it up there. Just I don't know with the kids, whatever I do. Maybe I do put it up there for likes, but I don't think I do. But I was seeing a lot of this stuff, and I was thinking, fucking hell, people see me. They know me. I'm quite gobby, and going out like you had. And I'm an active person. I perceive myself to be a big personality. I'm outgoing. I've got a lot of friends, from all different walks of life. And I thought all these people are seeing me put all this stuff on Facebook. I'm actually going to put it out there on Facebook. I'm feeling a bit shit at the moment. Right. My life isn't this. So the first thing I did was post on Facebook. I said, look, everything you see is great, but it's not always good. So I'm going to tell you, I'm struggling a minute. I'm going through this shit. Just so you know, my life isn't that. Then I had a couple of guys privately message me saying, fucking hell, I can't believe you spoke out and said that. It's fantastic. You've done that. It's great. I nearly did this. One guy nearly jumped off a bridge. Well, he went to jump off a bridge twice and he got stopped doing it. I know we'll talk about that later on, Andrew, but he didn't even know this guy. And I know him. He's on my Facebook group and he's a friend from Bournemouth, I consider a friend, but never knew this happened to him.
Right.
And it got me thinking. I was like, fucking hell, people need to speak. And then, so then I was at the pub one night. It was a Wednesday night. I got in there for a beer, feeling like shit. I got talking to a guy who I know, but I don't know him really well. I wouldn't class him as a close friend. A lot of my close friends were just, oh man, you'll be all right. She's this, she's that. Blame it on them and man up, have a pint, come on. Which is great sometimes to have your mates like that. But sometimes you just want to unload and just, we don't as men unload to anyone really unless you've got a relationship with a parent, but often they're far away and it's hard to do that. And we don't have our mates. Our culture in pubs, mates, is more banter, isn't it? It's more, you're not all right to be all right, you're a bloke, come on, man up. got talking to this guy in the pub. I was just at him about things, and he then went back to me afterwards, and I was like, God, my God. And he was like, I've been struggling as well. And we spent nearly 3 hours sat in this pub talking, but I didn't know him that well, knew of him. And it just made me think this is a bigger thing out there. And my partner, I've had a new partner pretty much shortly after my relationship finished, and she works in intensive care. But what she does is they set up this like a clinic where you can come in after you recover from intensive care, because often people that have been in intensive care, it's been like a near-death experience, and they come and share. They almost talk about their experience about it. So she pushed me down this road of, look, it's really big. People need to talk about stuff, what they've gone through, what they're going through, especially men. So she sort of pushed me doing into it, and I thought, well, what could I do? I thought, why don't we do a walk on the beach? How can I get other alpha males to come along? They're not going to come to sit around a table in a clinic in a church hall. You can't go and do it in a pub. I thought, I'm not going to go and sit in a pub environment, because some people might have drinking it. Mental health isn't just a relationship issue, like a relationship thing, which is what I had. It could be anything, couldn't it? From gambling, debt, alcohol, drugs, whatever. And I just thought, well, walk on the beach. We live near the beach. A lot of people go down the beach. It's a big thing down here in Devon. And that was it. Just started doing these walks on the beach. And we had, I think the first time we did it, I had some guy get 20 miles on a bus just to come on this walk.
Wow.
It was crazy. Yeah. Crazy. And we just literally walked along the beach chatting, and they were talking about their lives.
You definitely touched a nerve. Okay, well, I wanted a short intro, but you've told us everything about it, which is absolutely brilliant. I didn't want to interrupt you. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Andrew, thank you for sitting there patiently. Mr. Andrew Goss, aka lovingly referred to as Gossy. Many of our Birmingham and West Midlands crew will be more than aware of Gossy, although you might not recognise him, because back in the day he was sporting a little bit more hair. I think that's fair to say, isn't it, mate? You were known for your beautiful golden red locks, however you want to say it. So listen, introduce yourself, mate.
Listen, as Andy says, I've known Andy for years, and grew up in that clubbing scene. I think very much like a lot of guys of my age come across, and have always come across, as probably really confident, but internally felt very differently. And I didn't really sort of realise any of what I've been through until my father passed away. Do you want me to go through the full story now, Andy?
Yeah, I think so, because it'll give us an insight into yourself, and it will allow us to set up how you got to reflect and take yourself on that journey of discovery, kind of thing.
Yeah, successful guy, got a great job, big house, cars, wife, 3 kids, and then my father died suddenly, and everything crumbled. And I realised there was a problem, but I couldn't talk to anybody because I'd lost my dad.
Okay, so how old were you, when your dad passed away?
40. Yeah, 40.
Okay, so it's not a young pup. Yeah. Okay.
But then my marriage broke down spectacularly. Looking back, probably because I was too addicted to work. And I regret not spending as much time with my family as I maybe should have done. But then once my marriage broke down, I realised I needed help, and I engaged in a counselling service. I was living in Chesterfield at the time, and it was talking mental health, Derbyshire. I had a fabulous counsellor, Eilish, but then for lots of different reasons moved back to Birmingham. And then my life really disintegrated. So I had what they call a clonic-tonic grand mal seizure, which caused me to go into cardiac arrest. I suffered from hypoxia because I had starvation of oxygen to the brain. The lower lobal part of my brain was damaged. My heart was damaged. I had a gastrologist, a cardiologist, a neurologist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, all looking after me. And it was great. It was tough. I've had 14 seizures since. I've only had 3 more cardiac arrests. And I moved to London purely because I couldn't drive any longer.
Okay.
Carried on my career in London. Carried on being successful, and the healthcare you get in London is absolutely fabulous. So I was predominantly dealt with by the Whittington Hospital in central London by Archway, and they were absolutely fabulous with me. My mental health care was taken care of at Tottenham. My psychiatrist, Dr. Singh, was an amazing lady. And she talked me into going into group counselling, which I desperately did not want to do.
Okay, so let me ask you, forgive me if I'm asking an obvious question, but because I know the story, all of the health issues that you had, and then you having to go to counselling and everything. This is after that you told me the story about when you got took away, and you were sectioned.
No, this is before.
Okay, so see, I'm getting confused with the timeline.
Yeah,
so
no.
Forgive me.
When I was in London, she persuaded me to go to group counselling, which I didn't want to do, but actually, after about 3 weeks, I got so much out of it. I used to go every Wednesday for an hour and a half in Tottenham in their psychiatric unit, and just to sit in front of a group of complete, because I'd never talked about any of this, and to sit in front of a group of complete strangers and listen to them, but also have them listen to you without judging, without knowing you. And, you know, Si says it perfectly, without people saying just man up, get on with it. What have you got to be, you know? And I was ashamed, you know, I'm the first to admit it. I still am slightly ashamed about how I feel at times. But just to sit in front of a group of strangers and sit, I loved going to counselling. I absolutely loved it. But then COVID hit. Now, I was a store manager for Sainsbury's superstores. And so I went into work every day. But all the counselling and all the mental health, all the support stopped. And I did that typical thing that I think most men of our age group do. I just buried my head in the sand and pretended I'll be okay. And I carried on. And then, unfortunately, that led me to go into a number of psychotic episodes.
So I wasn't aware this was actually so recent. When you were telling me this, I thought you were going back further. So you have to forgive me for getting
This is like it was. I broke my ankle. So I caught COVID in February when it first hit our country. I broke my ankle jogging in April, and therefore I couldn't work or shouldn't have worked, but I carried on working. And I don't really understand why or how or when. I suppose I'm still trying to learn through counselling now. about what caused me, but I suffered a number of psychotic episodes where I tried to kill myself several times. And the first time I was sectioned under the 136 part of the Mental Health Act, and I'm sorry if this is a bit deep for people to listen to, but the reality is it is the subject nobody wants to talk about. People like to, it annoys me, and I sympathise in equal measures about when people talk about mental health. Because when you go through a psychotic episode, you enjoy it as much as it scares you. And it sounds really strange to say.
That makes me chuckle.
Yeah, well, listen, it's really strange. I can remember being taken into a hospital, and I absconded from the hospital, and I was elated. I was over the moon. I'd got away.
It was like an adventure.
Yeah, it was. And I hid under bridges, and eventually when the police caught me, they pinned me down. They held me until I'd stabbed myself in the stomach. They waited till the ambulance crew turned up, who sedated me. And they took me into the Park Royal Mental Institute in Brent. And it was the scariest moment of my life, because I did not know where I was. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how I'd got there. And I can remember the psychiatrist coming to see me and talking to me. And I can remember trying to think to myself, because I'm a logical, intelligent man, I'm not stupid, but I can remember trying to think to myself, right, how have I got here? And even at that point, I was still thinking to myself, right, Andrew, you need to get out. You need to get out. Do what you can. And my brain just couldn't comprehend what I was going through. And what Si has talked about, what he's doing for people, is absolutely brilliant. Because if I could have if I'd have been strong enough to talk to people prior, I wouldn't probably have ended up where I ended up. And when I was released from the Park Royal Hospital, the psychiatrist wrote me a admissions statement. And when I read back to myself what I'd done, I couldn't, my mind, and even now I still struggle to understand how that was me, how I got there. And I suppose the bit I want to make clear to people today is it's about talking, because the more you talk, the better you feel. And you shouldn't be ashamed, you shouldn't be embarrassed, you should just be able to talk. And the perfect example I'll give you, Andy, is when I came out, I got this letter and I thought, right, I have to do something, I have to change something, I have to get some additional support. And I sent that letter to my family members, not my mum, but my family members, because I thought they would help me. And you know what? They didn't.
What was their response?
I had to sit in front of my mum the following April and put that letter in front of her so she could read it. And we were sat in a coffee shop, and I went and bought the coffees, and I came back and she was in floods of tears. And at that point, I then thought, right, this is too much for a 79-year-old woman to take on board. So I then shared it with my friends. And you know what? My friends set up without me knowing, set up a WhatsApp group about me. And then they started contacting me weekly and just saying, how are you? And at first, it felt a bit weird because I didn't know. It felt all of a sudden, hold on a minute, why it's almost, it was like a relay thing that, you know, 1 week it'd be one week it'd be Tim, 1 week it'd be Sid, 1 week it'd be Moti, 1 week it'd be Dickie. But they were just checking in on my, you know, safety. And it made so much of a difference to me. And this is why I'm you know, engaging now in trying to start up this charity for people and prevention against suicide.
Okay, because, well, let me stop you there before we start to go on to the next step. As you know, I like to make this as interactive as possible. I want to acknowledge everyone that's watching. So many people are commenting. I'm sure you'll all appreciate. I'm not going to stop and give you all name checks now because we're deep in conversation, but it's all the same names who support religiously. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your comments. I've said before, Si and Andrew will read the comments. They can't read them now, but please feel free to leave messages on anything that strikes a chord with you. So Gossy, I'll come back to you, start talking about that. So hearing Gossy's story, Si, on your walks in the morning walks or any time of the day?
To be fair, they've been a bit random. We were doing it once a month, and now the winter's come in. It's dark early. It's not like walking on the beach in Spain like you post every effing morning. Just frustrated. Look at this beautiful sunrise. I almost did mine as a contradiction to yours when I posted it. Look, Andy, and you commented saying, "Oh, I see it's really cold in the UK," but equally it's just as nice, all right?
Yeah, of course.
Anyway,
of course.
But yeah, so they haven't been as So it's more So it's not for me. It's the awareness that I'm trying to put more out there too. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to concentrate on me doing these walks and being some. It's not. The people that come on the walks have got varying. I've had very different stuff that I didn't even know about. People suffering from anxiety, but they've suffered about it from an early age. I haven't got an experience of that. I'm not a doctor or anything. I've only learned what I've learned. So all I do is try and signpost people to that. You know, but me and Gossy were talking now. Andrew's experience of what he's gone through is, I wouldn't say it's extreme, but it is really, really, you know, a really tough story when you hear it. But Andy won't mind me sharing this. Andrew, I've got a friend of mine now who's going through something. I'm not going to mention his name because he's probably watching. He lives in Aldershot. Hello, mate. I'm probably there watching talking about it. He was with a girl only a short period of time. They were together about 6 months, but they split up. They got back together. He thought he's 55. He thought this was the big love. So anyway, they've split up. She's really messed him around. Mentally, he's been really struggling. Lives on his own through lockdown. This happened during second as we come out of the first lockdown. He knows I know a bit about this, but I've done a bit. I've been sort of supporting him through it, and he won't mind me saying, because I'm now aware of it, which I never was aware of it before. I've always thought, no, that's someone else's problem. I'm mentally very strong. I divorced from my ex-wife 10, 12 years ago with no mental health issues whatsoever. And I've been through a lot in my life. You know, I've not had a silver spoon. I've had nothing and then made it and then lost it and gone through the whole DJing thing because I'm like you, didn't want to play any old shit music, you know. So we've lost that, being big club DJ, running big clubs, and anyway, yada yada yada. I'll spin off.
Yeah, no, but what the point that I think you're making is the same kind of point that I would make myself. Being a strong person, you think, well, I've had similar things happen to me, and it hasn't affected me in that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So it happened to me is, I think this was just, I was older. I split up 3 years ago. I was probably 40. I'm 50, coming up 52, but I was 49 then. Moved out of this house and I was in rented accommodation. And I think the shock of like, oh my God, what have I done? Have I done the right thing? 100% I've done the right thing now on reflection. But I think at that time, mentally, it was all a bit shit. I'm 49. I've left this big house. Am I doing, you know, it's just the madness of it all. So I think now it's just more for me is trying to get the awareness out there that mental health could be my friend, that something's triggered it, this very short-term relationship, if you compare it to Gossy's long-term or whatever. It could be anything. That's just a relationship. It could be debt. It could be someone could have a very small amount of debt compared to someone who's got a big gambling habit. Whatever it's done to cause you to really struggle mentally, whatever it may be, is of equal importance. Do you know what I mean? And so how do you identify that? We're talking about men specifically, not women. You know, we're talking about men and mates and we come from a culture where we like socializing with people and stuff. How do you recognize it amongst your friends? How can you be that voice of support or whatever? Do you know what I mean? Or letting people know that you can listen to them. Do you know what I mean? It's not about me talking now. I don't sit there with my friend, and the biggest thing I learned, and I'm a big talker, as you can tell, is I have to listen. They're not me telling them, oh, you want to do that, you don't want to do that, you want to get rid of her, she's this and that. I just sit there and I listen to it, and we just try and process.
That is something that you've learned, I'm sure, down the years.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
I relate to that.
We're trying to wear. But how do we, Andy, get other alpha males or other people that, oh, I'm all right, I've got loads of mates like it, to get them more to open up? This is all about men in our generation, and it's happening more. There's so much more going on in the world. If you Google men's mental health now, there's loads out there. Mm-hmm. Sports people are talking about it. There's I know there's 3 or 4 men's walks that go on in Brighton every weekend now. So there's probably stuff all around the country. Do you know what I mean? So the more and more people will talk about men's mental health, mm-hmm. the more we can help.
Well, you're doing a great job, a very noble cause. The way you're putting it out there, it's not for any financial gain. I think everyone will relate to that. And you ask, how do we do it? One of the things that I started doing these talks on a Tuesday night to let people know how they can get more views on their DJ mixes, how they need to share a mix on their Facebook page better, things like that. And then it's somehow spiraled into me talking to a woman about domestic abuse, talking about mental health matters, talking about, disability. And it's just gone that, and it just strikes a chord with so many people different ways. And that's when Gossy had so coincidentally just added me into a WhatsApp group. Do you want to tell the story, Gossy, and then how I responded to that? Because I think that you'll be able to explain it better.
Yeah, well, I suppose, and I'm still trying to find the right platform to, because what Si said there about alpha males, particularly of our age group, the highest suicide rate in England at this moment is men between the ages of 40 and 60. Right, that's a fact. Right, and it's because we were brought up in a generation where you had to be strong, you had to take on responsibility, you had to be the father figure, the role model, etc. And it's I'm trying to, and this is the most difficult thing is, so I'm being treated for, I've got a private counsellor, I'm being treated for post-traumatic stress disorder at the moment. If anybody ever wants to buy a book, I'll show it you now. Best one you can ever buy. Right, that's what she's working through with me. And
read it out. What's the title?
It's called the Dialectical Behavioural Therapy Skills Workbook for Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder.
Nice catchy title then.
It's by Kirby Reuter.
Maybe Andy put that in the link. We'll put that up in the comments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, listen, but it's obviously at some point, and I think for me, it was my father dying suddenly, was the trigger for me, and I never dealt with it. And I suppose I'm trying to find a platform to allow people to talk, and I'm making mistakes along the way. So I set up a WhatsApp group and I sent it out to loads of people about men's mental health. And then automatically a load of people left, right? And Andy, bless him, was one of the ones who left, but he rang me straight away and said, I've left, but the reason why I've left is, and explained his reasoning, right, which is great, and made me think, right, I need to take this site down straight away, because I don't want to put people in a position where they feel uncomfortable, because some people are comfortable talking about stuff. I'm trying to learn to be more comfortable about talking about it openly. I was extremely nervous prior to coming on to, this evening and talking about this, because I know I'm opening up myself to lots of people. But I think
can I just interject there,
yeah.
and put my slant on it? So yeah, I left the group immediately, and I did contact you and I said, listen, I've left the group because I'm not in a single WhatsApp group. All my friends, I got so many friends, I'm not in a single WhatsApp group. I can't stand them. I don't like the ping, 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 ping. It does my head in. So I messaged you. I said, but mate, the timing of this couldn't be any better, because I'm actually starting to do a lot of conversations on Facebook, and that was after. Sorry, we then had like about an hour-long conversation, didn't we? And at the end at the end of the conversation, I said, "Listen, if you want to share your story, I've got the perfect platform for you." So that was where we got to, and then it was the synergy, if that's the right word. The timing just couldn't have been better.
No, exactly. And look, the way I look at it is, if I can, even if I'm embarrassed talking about my situation. And at times I almost feel, which people tell me I shouldn't do, but I almost feel slightly ashamed about it. But if I can help one other person just talk sooner rather than allow themselves to get into a situation where, Si, what you're doing is fabulous. Just to walk down a beach and have a chat and be able to talk to people and not be judged and not be, because the problem is your family and also your very close friends at times judge you, and they don't do it intentionally.
And they also judge a situation, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, they'll judge a situation. They'll go, oh, you don't want to be doing that. You don't want to be doing that. You don't want to do that. You want to do it like this. And you're like, you're not really listening to me, are you? Yeah.
And it's also, I would say, within that, you also have to accept. So through my counselling, I'm beginning to understand that you have to accept that some people will never understand your situation, and it's unfair for you to expect them to, because actually they don't feel the same way as you, because we all feel different things, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make, classic example, Seth, who I used to DJ with, is my best mate. I could never have a conversation with him about stuff, and I'm quite frank talking about it, and he knows that as well, because he'd give me a clip around the ear roll and say, come on, let's have a beer, and because whatever reason, he doesn't want to talk to me about that, which is fine as well, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't make him heartless. He'll take me for a beer and he'll give me the last penny in his pocket or a roof over my head, but he won't necessarily want to get into an in-depth conversation with me. Ranting
and that's right. I mean, it's like, when I was married, I can remember I'd go back to Birmingham and spend the weekend with my mates, and my ex-wife would say to me, how's Sid's family? And I would say, I don't know.
I asked him. Well, how many of us know our really good friends' mum and dad's names? Do you know?
Yeah, exactly. You never have those conversations, do you? It's just, I just go and meet my mates, have a laugh, and that's it. And we never talk about anything really deep. I suppose the point about men's mental health is that there is no, or what I've learned is there is no outlet. And don't get me wrong, in central London, it was fabulous. I don't know whether it's just because it's London or whatever, but their understanding of mental health and the support network they have there is brilliant. Mm-hmm. Outside of central London, I think it's a very different place.
So that'll bring us then to you mentioning to me that you had this idea. You had already supported local charities in the Norfolk area, and you wanted to take it a step further and get involved even deeper, right?
Yeah. So when I was living in London, because Christmas has always been a very difficult time for me since my marriage broke up, because my kids stayed with my ex-wife, and so every Christmas I committed to going to work for Crisis, the homeless charity in central London. And I would go and spend 3-4 days working in. They set up, basically what they do is they take school/college halls and they set up homeless shelters for people to go and stay, feed them, give them beds, bedding, etc., to keep them out of the cold, and they rely on volunteers to do that. And I volunteered every year to go and do that with Crisis, and it was rewarding but challenging in equal measures. But the one thing that I learned from doing that for the 5-6 years I did it was virtually, and not everybody, but probably 95% of people who were in that situation were suffering from some form of mental health, and they didn't have any outlet or support to help them. Now, I'm lucky I can pay for a counsellor, so I'm privileged in that respect. But I think about the people who can't pay, and then I think about how their life can possibly get better. It questions. So that's why I got involved in starting up this Horizon charity. I take nothing, I get nothing personally out of it in terms of payment or anything like this. In fact, I've committed my own money to help set it up, because I just think that there's a group of people out there where there's no support. Mm-hmm. And you've got people who literally will harm themselves so they can go into A&E so they can have a bed to sleep in. That's madness in today's modern world. Got to be wrong. There's got to be. And it's not the point that they're bad people necessarily, and some of them are, don't get me wrong, but most of them just need mental health support. And when it's not there, what do you do? Now, the pandemic has obviously made things worse and exacerbated situations, but I just think, I suppose I look at this subject and I think I'm one of the lucky ones. Financially, I'm not. I don't have big issues, in that respect. But I don't know. I count every day now as a blessing that I'm still here. And when I go counselling every Wednesday with Sally. She's a fabulous woman and she's helping me immensely move forward. But I don't know how I got to where I got to, if that makes sense. And if I didn't have that outlet, I don't know where I would be.
You don't know what would have happened.
Yeah.
It's all highly relatable, Si, right? And have any of the people that you walk along the beach with, have they ever opened up to a point that you were surprised at some of the things that you heard?
Yeah.
Mosquito. Sorry.
We don't have that problem here. Because obviously it's different. So there's different. Yeah, I mean, I had one guy who was really struggling with anxiety. He came down the beach for a walk. He was older than me, and I knew him. And I was like, I know him. And it was actually his wife who messaged me saying, this guy wants to come along. Is it okay? I said, yeah, of course it is. Come on down. And he was obviously a bit nervous. He didn't know me. He was from the pub. And he came along and he opened up and he just suffered from anxiety. He couldn't work it out. Come on from nowhere. Can't work it out. Didn't know if it was because he was getting older or stuff like that. And managed to signpost him to another, because there's there's different organisations and stuff that you can help people with the suffering of anxiety. So I signpost, they call it signpost, and you just say, look, I don't know enough about it, go and contact them. But he did open up and we had a good chat. And I said, look, I've suffered a bit from anxiety. I said, but I used to do, from back in the day, my anxiety was caused from too much excess of various bits and bobs.
Well, let me ask you a question. None of the three of us are probably educated enough or qualified enough to answer this, but we can, we can have our own ideas. Do you think that the situations that a lot of people are in now can have any significance on our lifestyles that we had in our, you know, in our early 20s, in our late teens, early 20s? Do you think a lot of us are paying the price down the years now, or do you think men's mental health generally has always been there, but there's just more awareness of it now? Am I asking too many questions?
No, you're right. So the thing is, I think if you continue to do it, so if you'll say, I think an excessive lifestyle will lead to anxiety. Because I know that if I've had a bender for 2 days on the sauce, Friday, Saturday night, I'm hanging on Sunday and Monday. I feel like death. So now I recognise that now. Do you know what I mean?
But what about going back years?
I don't know whether going out and doing loads of getting off my nut years ago is affecting me now. I don't, because mentally I feel pretty strong again, because I've sort of been through what I've been through. I've got a fantastic relationship. I'm with an amazing person who I should have been with years ago, because she's so right for me, and she's very supportive of everything I do. But the big thing is, when I first started this, I had a doctor message me that I know, from a female doctor, messaged me, see my thing on Facebook, and she was a friend of my ex, saying, this was after, saying, "Si, this is amazing what you're doing. Amazing. This is a really big thing." In Devon, especially, there's a big, large farming community, right? North Devon. These guys are in their tractors. They work in their tractors all day long. So they haven't been raving here and everywhere and caning it. And the suicide rate is massive.
Wow.
Through farmers. Didn't know this. She said, in the farming community, they have a real problem with men's mental health in the farming community. So that is totally, so it's almost like that's got nothing to do with that. But, I can't sit here and categorically telling me, doing whatever I did back in the day, and, has it affected me down the line?
I just wondered generally, because society, I think, is get up to whatever they're getting up to.
Without wanting to jump in,
no, please do jump in whenever you want to.
Yeah, when I first started seeing Dr. Singh in Tottenham, the psychiatrist, I was quite guarded at the start and wasn't very honest about my previous years. And when I opened up and told her, she said there is absolutely a correlation of our age group who grew up in that period and what we did, and the effect it is having in future years on people's mental health. Because you can't experience such highs, however those highs come, and then not suffer from never feeling them again, or never going there again. But then also there is medically, it affects your brain's functionality. So
dopamine hit, I suppose, is something to do with that,
So that on top of your environment as well, your upbringing, things that went on at home that none of us have even spoken about yet, but other people also probably don't want to open up to as well, because it's one of those things. We are all, as I say, we are all products of our environment, whether you're a single child, whether you're from a large family, whether you grew up in a quiet household, a very noisy household, whether that was happy or whatever, that will totally shape the kind of person that you are, and how you handle with situations in life. Okay, so where did we get to with regards to both of your stories? Gossy, you didn't actually tell us then about where you got to with regards to seeking more help for the area that you are now, because that was one of the important things that you wanted to draw focus on.
Yeah, right. We only moved to Norwich to be closer to my partner's parents, because they were quite elderly and we'd been locked down. But it became painfully aware that there was no mental health support. So I go to a private counsellor every week. And I suppose, I'm working alongside setting up this charity called Horizon. Setting up a charity is a really quite a complicated thing. It's not as simple as just setting up. You have to get all sorts of governance and stuff in place. You have to have the right people backing it. and for all the right reasons, because obviously people wouldn't donate or shouldn't donate into an organisation that isn't passing on that good to finishing, you know, to provide the service that you're investing in, etc. So I'm doing that. I suppose my main point about coming on today is, and I think Si's example is a brilliant one of just, however it's facilitated, just getting people to talk, just getting blokes who can sit and have a chat and say, are you okay? I watched a video. Somebody sent it to me. One of my friends, Sid, sent it to me. Or it wasn't a video, it was an article actually about loneliness in men. And it was about, you go through a cycle of life, part of your life as a male, where you are a son, then you become a partner, then you become a father. And then unfortunately, a lot of marriages break down, and then suddenly you are alone. And that loneliness, people don't like to talk about. And if you could just, you know, my, you know, advice to anybody is just pick up the phone and talk to whoever. And that might be one of your mates, that might be somebody by association that you know, that might be the Samaritans, that might be, but just pick up the phone and talk, because the more you talk, the better you feel. And
it's just sort of jump in there, Andrew. And it's just a bit like, you're right about the talking, but this is the bit that I think that we're like, me and you had a conversation offline, and we said, now you'll find that people, because you put yourself out there, people are coming to you, right? So I found, now I've put myself out there, I've got people that say to me, sorry, I'm not doing great. You know a bit about this, don't you? Come on, have a chat. And I have chats with them, like, and that's, whereas a lot of blokes won't pick up the phone to a mate and say, I'm struggling. You've almost also equally, we've got to try and identify it and be a little bit more aware of people. They're a bit off there. He's a bit quiet. He doesn't seem himself. Not, oh, mate, you don't seem right. You're right, mate, have a pint. It's a bit like, maybe just take him to one side. I know it sounds a bit weird, but I think, are you all right? Are you really all right, mate? You don't seem yourself, buddy. Not in a pub environment or wherever you're a group of lads, almost to one side, trying to recognise that. That's the bit. Does that make sense? I'm trying to.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. And yeah. There was a program put out there by Ronan Kemp, which Martin Kemp's son.
Yeah.
And his best mate committed suicide. And I think he articulated it really well, in as much as you ask the question, how you doing? Are you okay? And everybody always, as a bloke, the answer is, yeah, I'm fine. And then what he said was, you then ask it again, right, are you really okay? Is there anything I can do? You know, and you have to, I suppose, invest a bit more time in your friends and the people around you to really check in and check that they are okay. You know, one of my friends did it with me yesterday, or not yesterday, a few days ago, because he knew my partner's dad's funeral was coming up. And he rang me and he was just chatting, and we were just having a normal chat. And then when we sort of coming to the end of our conversation, he said to me, well, listen, I'll just tell you his name, Dicker. He was fabulous. And he said to me, look, are you really okay? And it makes you just sit back and think. And I was like, yeah, actually, I am, Dicky, but thank you very much for asking.
Thank you.
Because it meant a lot.
Well, I've got a few people are commenting here, and I just want to point out, because of the way that I'm broadcasting this, that it's broadcasting on 2 channels. I'm broadcasting on my own personal profile where most people are watching, and I'm also broadcasting on the Inspire and Be Inspired page. So I'm not sure where all of you are commenting. So some of you might not get to read the comments of other people. So if I'm fairly certain everyone's my friend, so maybe go over onto my own profile, join that stream, and you can read all the comments. Scott Cornwell, a good friend of mine from Birmingham, someone that we would have partied with Gossy back in the day, at Marco's. He said I messaged him after his dad passed away just to check in on him. And the only reason that I'm bringing that up, putting myself in the frame, is because and I've spoken about this before, I understood the significance of feelings when you lose someone close to you, and it made me fully aware of that. I used to think I sympathized in the past, but then until it happens to you, you can truly have empathy. And so now I'd like to think I'm a much better friend now to many of my friends. I'll go out there and I'll contact them, and Scott's thanking me for showing him the value of that contact, and I do it a hell of a lot. And more often than not, people will say to me, "You've got a sixth sense, Andy, because this is wrong, that's wrong. I was this, whatever." So the reason I'm saying that, without putting myself on a pedestal, joke there.
No, but I think
is the fact. No, what I want to say,
Yeah.
sorry, and I'll shut up, is the fact that not everyone has that ability to be aware, and not everyone has well, that's it. They don't have the ability to go out and talk to people like that. And it's something that you can learn, right? It can be taught as well.
Yes, listen, I don't think everyone is going to be like we are, right? But there's probably a shitload of people that I know, and a shitload of people you know, and Gossy does, that will be listening to this or whatever, that can do it, that are perceived to be quite outgoing and stuff, but actually they can do it. Do you know what I mean? This is a bit I'm trying to get around by raising this awareness is people like us. If we can put ourselves out there and doing it, and we're, I say alpha male, it sounds a bit cocky, but outgoing, whatever you want to call it, you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? But underneath it's that's what I'm trying to get about talking about it. There's a big thing online about the word suicide. We're really scared to use the word suicide. There's a whole suicide thing, training you can do. And they say the biggest thing you say to someone is, are you having suicidal thoughts? You're not thinking, are you thinking of suicide? Don't say, are you thinking of doing something, or are you that? If you say to someone, are you thinking of suicide? Yeah. It's a really powerful thing. And
I did the same course. You might have saw the video. And
yeah, I don't know. I got it off a work colleague, but it must be the same thing, Andy.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's a few, but what surprised me was the fact that it taught you, do not be afraid to mention the word suicide, because you are not going to put the thought in their head. People say, oh my God, if I ask them, and if they go away and do something crazy, and you've used the word a hell of a lot, signposting. That was what I picked up from that talk. I think it was a 15-minute online course that I took. Suicide awareness course. Google it. I recommend everybody to do it. I did a heartfelt speech into the camera 2 Christmases ago. I lost a good friend in Australia. Carla is here with us. She says men need to be able to shift the old masculinity, man's man stereotype. It breaks her heart to see how many of her male friends she's lost to suicide. So talking about it is really good. Being aware of your friends who aren't, are a little bit off kilter, if that's the right phrase. It does, just that one little conversation can make a hell of a difference.
There's going to be people listening back to this or listen to us that are going to know far more about me and Gossy about this stuff, that are probably trained in everything else. We're just normal guys sharing our story that are trying to do a bit to help other guys. And I think, being a man's man, as whoever it was put it, do you know what I mean? That's probably better than the alpha male. A man's man is probably what I more consider myself.
Well, Gossy made a good point when we had a conversation. We've had a couple of lengthy conversations. Generally, whilst I'm walking along the beach in the morning, and I said I don't like to use the word ordinary, but then you, Gossy, said no. Ordinary is ordinary men. You said people can actually relate to ordinary people much more than an expert. Is that right, Gossy?
Yeah, no, and also there's, what I've learned, or what I'm learning through my counselling gigs, there is obviously varying spectrums of what is ordinary. What's ordinary to me might not be ordinary to you, might not be ordinary to, other people. And it's not a bad word, ordinary, but what we can't do is we can't all badge ourselves to behave in an ordinary way, because we're all different.
Yeah, it's all relative. It's all relative.
Yeah, and we all have different feelings, different thought processes, and your brain, doesn't work the same as the person next to yours, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you feel bad, you're feeling it or finding it tough, somebody else might be next to you who is looking at you thinking, how the hell can I look back on my life and I think, how the hell did I find it so difficult when essentially I'd everything on paper that people would want?
Yeah.
But inside, I was crumbling.
Mm-hmm. Well, Pogwash, Neil McLean has commented earlier. I remember reading it in the comment. Hi, Pogs. He was saying that a lot of his mental health issues is to do with a chemical imbalance, and I know a lot of women will really relate to that as well. So, did you go down that route? Did you have anything that started you off on your illnesses, Gossy? Was any of that brought up about chemical imbalance?
No, I was diagnosed with Asperger's at 40. So obviously Asperger's is a form of autism.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew, I was a naughty child at school. I got expelled. I was suspended a couple of times. I had the cane a couple of times, but nobody badged it anything other than being as naughty. It was only when I first went to counselling that I was diagnosed with Asperger's. Now, Asperger's is, and autism is, it's probably why I was so successful at work, because the logic of my autism means I can solve problems really quickly. But the emotional side I can't deal with because it doesn't make sense, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's helped me from a professional point of view.
So you are our very own Dr. Spock.
Well, possibly, but when I got that diagnosis, I can remember I went back to my wife and said, I've been diagnosed with Asperger's. And she was like, you haven't got Asperger's. My mum even said to me, you haven't got Asperger's. And I think, sat there thinking, hold on a minute, a professional person's diagnosed me with something. It's like if somebody said, you've got cancer, right? That's a fairly black and white statement, isn't it? And people would not say, no, you haven't. But because it's a mental health issue, then people question it. Yeah. And that, to me, doesn't make any logical sense either. Because...
Logical. Me saying about Spock, Sid's watching on YouTube, he says, beam me up, Gossy. Yeah, that's the other problem, because I can't. Is it the black dog? I've just pulled that out of thin air somewhere. Is there a phrase called the black dog, where about something to do with illness? So I'll be the first one to admit I've done no research on this. I've made no notes. Don't know what I'm talking about. But that somewhere in the back of my mind, the black dog springs up, and it's something to do with because you can't see and you can't put a plaster on it. That that there's that. Carla's saying yes. So thank you, Carl. I don't know. There's something in the back of my mind for black dog. I don't know what that is, but we'll Google it.
So look, whether or not it's a chemical imbalance in my head, whether it's not just I'm not made the same way as anybody else. I don't know what the answer is really. I don't think there is an answer. But if you think about our generation, there was no diagnosis of kids. There was no, you were just classed as naughty, or you were just classed as.
I think ADHD was the first kind of diagnosis you were getting, wasn't it? In the early 90s kind of thing.
Yeah, again, to be when I first went to counselling back in Chesterfield, Eilish, my counsellor, was amazing. She was due to retire that year, and she didn't retire purely because she'd never met a man of my age or a person of my age who had never been diagnosed before. Right? And so she worked with me, and it made a lot of sense to me suddenly. Life made a lot more sense. So actually, that's why I think differently to other people. You know, in a group, I think everybody or anybody watching this who knows me, in a group situation, I come across as really confident, yet inside, I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
But that is my aspersions. I'm overcompensating. And it's you know, it's bizarre, but it's sort of then when somebody talks to you about it, it then sort of makes sense to you about, well, that's why I've always done what I've done. That's what, you know, it makes a bit of sense.
It's like a validation.
Yeah, it doesn't excuse your behaviour, and you got to, you know, it's not a get out of jail card, but sort of makes a bit of sense to you suddenly that actually, even though I didn't feel comfortable in that situation, I can see why I overcompensated.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, I don't know, as I say, I don't know whether it's chemical imbalance. I don't know quite what it is. I don't know. I know it's hereditary.
Right.
I know, like my cousin, his son has got severe autism. I think my granddad had autism, but I don't quite understand how it fits together, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I go back to the point of, I hope that going forward, young men are taught it's okay to show their feelings and talk about themselves, so they don't get into a position where we end up with this alpha male group of people who have or feel they have nobody to talk to, and therefore the route is suicide, because that cannot be right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a great mission that you're going to have, a great mission to have that, and you're doing everything that you can to do it. So, Si, after having this conversation now, how frequently are you? Did you kind of like take your foot off the gas with the conversation because of the pandemic, and then, or are you still wanting to get back and do more of it?
Yeah, I sort of get a bit inspired to sort of like, you know, it's just the weather in England. It's like, so we were going to plan it, and then my time, I didn't really get anyone else to come with me. I'm trying to get other people to get involved on the bus with me a little bit with it, and I was a bit on my own with it. And be like, I try and plan it for that weekend, then something's going up, and I've got to do it, and it was the commitment of it. So it tends to be more of a summer thing. When I can do it, it's easier in the evenings in the summer when it's light. You know, as soon as it's light, you can do Tuesday night, 6 o'clock. We go down the beach, we walk for an hour and a half. It was great. It's just a lot harder to do it in the middle of winter, to say, right, this Saturday I'm going to do it, because Saturday I'm doing 101 other things, you know, I'm work a week. It's just, so it was almost a bit like that. But so, yeah, I've got to get back on it and push it again. Do you know what I mean? A bit in the area where I live. But equally, I'm quite vocal about the whole thing to people, so people know about it. So I know 3 or 4 people that committed suicide in the last 12 months. A couple of people I knew quite well. 2 I didn't. One of the guy I was talking about earlier from Oldham Shop, his friend did it. His friend, they found him. He had a totally normal life. They don't really know the reason why he did it. He hung himself in his garden shed, and he had 2 kids. His daughter found him. They don't know why. He had a normal life to everyone on the outside. He was outgoing, fine. They're never going to get to the bottom of why he did it. Clearly, obviously, he had some mental health issues going on. It's just that no one picked up on it. No one saw it. And that's the bit, you know, that probably no history of mental health whatsoever or anything. And it's just, you know, that's the bit shock that I found shocking. So when I go back to what I originally said, was when I first put the thing on Facebook saying, look, you all think I've got this great life. You see my Facebook life, the same as what everyone puts on Facebook. They only show the good bits. I said, it's fucking shit. I'm feeling a bit rotten. And then I had people message me that I was just like, I couldn't believe it. So I nearly took my own life side. This is amazing. All you've done is put myself out there, really. Do you know what I mean? Just as a recognition of that. And that's the biggest thing for me. So yes, I'm going to get the walks going again once the weather gets better.
Well, weather aside, there's nothing stopping you really putting time into the group and encouraging other people. You know, as you say, there's nothing wrong with saying, "Come on, lads, fix up. Someone give me some support here. What we're trying to do is incredible, but I don't want to take on all the responsibility myself."
Yeah, I do want to, you know, yeah, I'm there. That you're right. That's the thing. I think if I was back in Bournemouth, obviously, because you've got a much bigger conurbation in Bournemouth, lots of chimney pots. You know, Bournemouth and Poole is a big area now. All Southampton, there's a lot more. Like the guy does it in Brighton. I think they're really quite well attended. So he's doing them quite regularly. He does one in Brighton, one in Littlehampton. They're called, I think it's called Men's Walk Talk. If you go on, anyone who's listening from that area. But I'm sure they're doing them. I've not looked in Manchester, Leeds, or I don't know about Norwich over your way, Andy. There might be some over that way. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I don't know is the answer to that. But it's getting bigger. But yeah, I do need to. You're right. I do need a bit of a. My partner's always saying you need to get on and do it. It's good for to do this. And she's pushing me to do it. So yeah.
Well, two comments that I'm reading here. Prue says depression is the killer, not the person doing it to themselves. And then I mentioned Pugwash earlier. He said, I used to get told off for posting stuff on Facebook. And that's quite a good comment, a good point that he makes, really, because coming back to what you were saying before, Simon, talking to your friends, it's very difficult. Your friends won't really listen to you. They say, oh, whatever. If you're someone like Pugwash, he's quite admittedly has cycles of different moments that he's feeling in different ways. And if he feels like he wants to offload onto Facebook, someone will message him and say, oh, stop being such a mood, a vibes killer or whatever. But unfortunately, what you're trying, and I've spoke to Pugwash myself about this, and when you speak to someone and he explained things that were completely different to how it read on the post, and so that can be the problem sometimes. There are people who will post and they do seem to just be I'll say what I was going to say, it come across wrong, but they seem to be miserable all the time. They're always complaining about something. They've always got a problem. And if you don't know that person very well, you could quite easily just roll your eyes and go, oh, bloody hell, here they go again. But it's a cry for help. And if that person eventually did take their own life, and everybody would be like, wow, why couldn't we see the signs? We didn't see.
There's a lot of it on social media, though, isn't there? There's a lot of those. I'm on a few like men's mental health groups on there, and they're like, they're worldwide groups, like American groups, and people are always posting, help me, and all this sort of stuff, and it's hard. You think, oh my God, what, I don't know. The thing is, it's hard with social media, isn't it? Because it's trying to find who's genuine, who's not, what is right with it.
Especially in the music industry, if you've created a network of people in your friends list from going out to parties, for example, vocal booth, you've got a bunch of friends that you've raved with for years, but you don't really know them. They're only like acquaintances that you barely know on a dance floor, some people. Then you can't really expect the same level of commitment and interest from people that you generally do know and do care for you. So that's the difficult bit. Gossy, I know you're not. How are we both doing for time anyway? We okay? I'm not keeping you from your teas.
Yeah, I'm fine. That's not a problem. I mean, the thing I was just listening to you both is I'm not on any social media. I took myself off when my marriage broke down because it all became a little bit toxic. And so I've got WhatsApp, a couple of WhatsApp groups with my close mates, but outside of that, I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram. I don't engage in those things. And I think me and Si weren't on me saying that when we first spoke a few weeks back, that everybody puts how great their life is on Facebook. That's what I used to see when I was on it. Look at my lovely family, look at my lovely perfect weekend, look at my lovely holiday, look at my lovely. And therefore, I don't think it gives a reality of what that person's life is like. It's just a portrayal of what they want everybody to think. And therefore, it's probably not the platform where people feel comfortable to honestly say, you know what, I am feeling a bit, I'm not feeling great. I'm struggling a little bit. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the answer is to social media, and you summed it up perfectly. That it's a bit like if we go back in the day, and this shows how old I am, before when mobile phones came out and you text people something, text can be read, or read in a particular way. So you can say, can't speak now, and somebody might take offense. Whereas if you actually spoke to them and said, really sorry, I'm busy, I'm in a meeting, can't speak now, but I'll get back to you, then it becomes a very different feeling for the person on the other end of that conversation, because can't speak now can be taken, oh, they can't be bothered, when that's not how it was intended, So it's a difficult thing with mental health.
There is a positive. Like, I enjoy using social media. Right? I enjoy seeing people what they're doing. I enjoy seeing Andy's videos down the beach. I enjoy seeing Vocal Both posts because I can't get out there. I like seeing John and Bob in Bournemouth and seeing where they're DJing and seeing, I like seeing it when my friend's been to see Tottenham versus Blooming football and he's doing that and that. I quite enjoy it in that respect. You know what I mean? I take that and I put up, if I do something, I'll put it up there because it's not a oh, look at me. It's more of a, I don't know. It's just I live in Devon. I don't get to see all my friends. I've got friends in Portugal, America, all over the place. And I get to see what they're doing. Craig is always posting up his pictures of in Wales and stuff, what they're doing in Cardiff. And I really enjoy seeing it all. Do you know what I mean? In that respect. But equally, if I do see someone put a post up and it is someone I know fairly well, or they were feeling a bit down, I would then, and I have done, private message them to say, "Hi mate, seen that? You're right. What's happening?" Or someone had, there was Eddie, who used to run a lot of clubs, Eddie Stenner down on the south coast of England in Bognor. He had cancer. Unfortunately, he passed away. There'll be people on here that probably know Eddie and stuff. He was quite big he was a house DJ, but he was quite big on the Northern Soul and the mod scene back down in that way. And it was really sad and stuff. And, and it got to be, I messaged them and said, it's just, so it does have its pros and cons.
I think sometimes as well, it can be how you read people's posts and how you read text can also be a reflection of yourself, your own character as well sometimes. So you have to look within. There's so many memes out there. There's so many, and depending on the person that you are, somebody will post about, before you judge the person who's posting the photograph Christmas morning of the 60 boxes of gifts for their kids, and they're really basking in the glory of the 12 months that they've had to scrape all the money together to give those to the kids because they never had it as a child. And then you're there rolling your eyes going, oh, look at her showing off again. Do you know what I mean? There's so many different, it just reflects on the person that's
look, absolutely. I think it's a medium that is never going away. It's certainly from a generational point of view. I think about my children and how much they use social media. So my eldest daughter, she goes out with a footballer. Whenever he goes out, there's pictures posted all over of, women flocking around, etc. And she finds that really difficult. But then that's that generation, isn't it? For me, it's not something that I engage in or need to engage in. I don't feel the need to. I know my close friends are, and I keep in touch with them, and I don't, need.
That's one thing that.
I was just saying, do you think that feeds men's mental health? Because men, we all use Facebook, Andy, and stuff. People that use it. Do you think that maybe that feeds we see them doing well? He's got a good job. He's got a big house. He's got a nice wife. I don't know it. I don't see that when I look at Facebook.
No, but I think it just depends on the person, the individual, doesn't it? I know some people, and it's important to I think a point I would like to make is I've got some friends on Facebook who come across as complete dickheads, absolute knobheads.
I'm sorry for that.
No, well, sitting face to face with them, they're such kind, lovely people, but their online persona is horrible. And knowing that, if I didn't know the person, if I hadn't had the opportunity to spend time with them, I wouldn't give them the time of day. But because I know them, I can just, that's just them being them, And unfortunately, not everybody can see past the online personas that some people portray. And they don't want to. Some people don't give a damn how they're thought of. Si, I'm sure you don't really give a damn how people perceive you. I don't care how people perceive me. And yet at the same time, you wouldn't like to think you go out your way to offend people,
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Yeah.
It's crazy. Still getting people commenting here. Steve Reed has been commenting throughout. Nice to have you here, Steve. Of course,
Steve.
That's what Steve Gossy. You won't be aware. Steve is a friend of ours who's just lost his wife. They've been together for 30 years. God. So he's we mentioned about loneliness here. That's something that he's struggling with now, and that the whole range of emotions that go with it. And again, coming back, you saying you believed, Gossy, which I think we touched on. One of the triggers for you was that you had suppressed grieving for your dad for so long, and then suddenly the lid blew off, right?
Yeah, well, I didn't grieve for my father at all. I felt like I had to assume his role, in as much as I had to become the man of the family. I can remember people saying to me, "You didn't cry at his funeral. You didn't, we've never seen you shed any emotion." And it's just because I didn't feel, or I wanted to be strong for my mum, I wanted to be strong for my wife, I wanted to be strong for my kids, I wanted to be strong for my sister, I wanted to be strong for everybody else around me. And therefore, I never, ever allowed myself, and that's why I'm being treated for post-traumatic stress disorder at the moment, because that is probably the stress, the disorder, where my disorder comes from, because I just never ever coped with it, and I held it and I held it and I held it and I held it, and then at some point, culmination of my marriage breaking up, etc. My seizures were caused categorically by stress. There's no, in our family, there is no form of epilepsy in anybody at all. And those clonic-tonic seizures, which are life-threatening, God, I had 4 cardiac arrests. They were caused by stress. And that's because I just didn't deal with it.
It's something that I was talking about my partner when she said, what are you talking about and stuff? And she said, I'm talking about that. But, I had a relationship sort of thing that made me, my mental health wobble. But I think also now we talk about our age, which is what you're talking about. We're getting on into our 50s, and the whole age group of your listeners are saying, we're going to be losing loved ones and people around us. Even close friends now is going to be coming. I haven't lost anyone yet, touch wood, but I know we all have, and you certainly have, Andy, and stuff. So, it's you never know when this is going to happen to you, or the trigger's going to happen to you. And all I can say is that, when it does happen, is you need to be prepared to talk about it, like you've just shared there, and grieve and get some help or speak to people, because if you do, just bottle it up.
Yeah,
suicide isn't the answer. That's what we're trying to stop.
Yeah, and if I've been going to counselling for I don't know how long now, but unfortunately, as I said, my partner's father passed away. It was his funeral yesterday, and through talking to my counsellor and building up to that moment in time, I actually coped with it quite well. I was supportive, I was there, I was able to deal with it, but I didn't get that luxury with my dad, if that makes sense. And therefore, I should have just gone and got help. The moment my father passed, I should have gone and got help, but I didn't. And, we can all look back and say, that's what I should have done. But
Well, now you've given food for thought for anyone else that's either in that situation right now or inevitably it is going to happen. You say their side, you haven't lost anyone close to you. Fortunately, I've said it on my radio show a few times, which may seem a bit strange during a really upbeat radio show, but I've stopped the music and I've just said, listen, guys, none of us are getting any younger. We've got to prepare, especially if you've not lost parents yet. You need to start thinking to yourself how you're going to deal with it when that inevitability arrives. And a couple of people in the chat room at the time didn't really like what I was saying, and other people was, yeah, you're right, what you're saying. Just to stop and think, because then it also allows you to. This is only my own thoughts, of course, no expert. Allows you to live your day differently every day then, and your relationship with those around you. When you have that in the back of your mind, you do have a different relationship with those close to you. One thing I want to I think we might be getting towards the end now, but one thing that I want to mention here is we've got a guy, Damien, that's been watching, Jackie Black as he's known on Facebook. He's literally just come back from Spain. He's had an operation on his heart. He's had some heart issues in his family, and he's finally had them treated. But he wanted me to, when I said I was going to mention it on tonight's show, he said that the one thing that I should point out to people is to make sure that you do go and get regular health checks. If there's anything that you're not certain about, if there's anything that you're not sure about, don't be afraid. Don't bottle it up. Don't hide it, suppress it for too long. Go and get it checked out. And as well, probably stating the extreme obvious, but at our age, 45 upwards, you should be getting an annual health check, blood tests, and go to your GP. Things have been different, of course, throughout the pandemic. Guys, you get checked out every year, right?
Yeah.
Sigh.
I haven't done, because when you get to 50 in the UK, you're supposed to go and get a check. And this is classic with the COVID thing now. Trying to get a doctor's appointment and everything else in the UK is absolutely mental. So, it's something I keep putting off. We were talking, this is a whole other subject, talking about our health that then spins into mental health, because I'm trying to really keep myself as healthy now as we're getting older. And you're back on the exercise thing and riding dirt bikes, surfing, all the stuff to help mentally as well. But yeah, you're right. I know, give me a kicking, but I do need to go and.
There you go. Get it sorted out. Urine test, a quick test of your vitals, the heart checkup, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when we look back, there's been so many people commenting. So much love for what you guys have got to say. So you'll get to reply to those. You'll probably kick yourself because there was something that you had wanted to talk about that's gone clean out of your mind. Gossy, you said you were a little bit apprehensive about talking. You haven't done a bad job, my friend. I think you've been open, okay. You've been frank, you've been you've hit the nail on the head with some of your points, and you're still the first to admit that your journey is far from over on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm working.
A work in progress.
Yeah.
And Si, so I think one thing we can take from this conversation for yourself is that you should reach out and ask for help, ask for someone else to back you up, because what you're doing down there is incredible. Si is on Facebook. Anyone can find him. I'll tag him in this if they want to speak to him.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to speak to anyone on it, and I won't. I'll listen to you more than anything else. Do you know what I mean? I'm fairly open, private message me, whatever,
Wicked. Well, I will say to anyone, I think we've kind of covered everything, but if you guys aren't in a rush, there's a couple of questions I want to share with you. So if anyone has to bounce off now, I'll completely understand. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to ask you, Fernando, a good friend from Birmingham, he says, what are your thoughts on medication? When you ask that, Fernando, I'm assuming you think, is it a good route to go down? Pugwash immediately comments and says they don't work. Pugwash for years has had various types of medications that he's been misdiagnosed, misprescribed for years and years. He's telling me some crazy stories. So, sorry, I'll shut up. Your thoughts on medication?
Okay, well, my thoughts are dead simple, that because of my seizures, my medication is rigid in as much as I have to take 5 Epilim tablets every day, which prevent me from going into seizure. I have to take lansoprazole. I have to take gastrologil, which is another, and then I have to take blood pressure tablets. So in terms of, I've spoke to my GP about, and I spoke to my neurologist about antidepressants and everything. And the issue for me is that they're not an option because it would affect the effectiveness of Epilim.
Right.
And Epilim is the drug that stops me going into seizure. Therefore, it's not even an option for me. So that's why counselling is the best route for me.
It's the best way.
And to be honest, I'm pleased because I'm learning more and more that I don't know what drug they could prescribe me, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't do me as much good as sitting down and talking and opening it up and being honest.
Right.
And
I didn't
explaining how I feel.
Yeah, I didn't take anything. A few people said go and see a doctor, get surprise happy pills, whatever they call them. I didn't. I did a lot of research on meditation. So I used to meditate, think blue sky thoughts, all this stuff, Calm app. There's loads of stuff out there. There's a thing about, they say about journaling. If you're going through stuff or whatever, get it down, write it on paper. You can burn the paper, screw the paper up, put it in the bin with your problem. It can really help you mentally and stuff like that. So
symbolic kind of.
Yeah, it's almost like a symbolic thing. You write whatever the problem down is on paper or whatever, and you jot it all down, and you almost like screw it up and it takes it out of your mind and puts it on the thing. Apparently it works. Meditation is really good. Mm-hmm. Really just sitting there and just trying to think. And this whole, you start off at a real basic level of meditation. There's apps that can help you do it. That can really help as well, with calming thoughts and stuff, because your brain's going, you've got this chitter chatter in your head. I think that's one of the biggest things with it, as Andrew probably relates to, and you can't control the chitter chatter. That's the thing. Yeah. And I said this to my friend who's going through it at the moment. And he said he just can't stop himself. His brain's going all these thoughts about this stuff. And you've got to try and calm. So to answer your question, I don't know enough about it. I would say, for me personally, I would try and steer away from medication to try and solve a problem, like they said. But for someone's really struggling, and if that is in that situation, different for Andrew because he's got an actual medication to stop something occurring. But I think
mentally. Mr. Jones, hi Arkin, he says people should research mushrooms. They're completely natural with no side effects. Lots of research on psychedelics, I think. And then Sid says his wife's a pharmacist and the last thing she turns to is prescription drugs. So that must tell you something. And Fernando replies now, just catching up with his comment. He says it took him years before having to take medication because he attempted suicide at the age of 42. Well, thank you for sharing that, Fernando. And I hope that the medication is having its benefits. Do you have counselling as well? Maybe that's a conversation over a beer just before we have another dance off. And then Lindsay's here as well. Lindsay Baker's here, Gossy. She says exercise and the endorphins they release can be a huge help. Most definitely.
1000%. That's the biggest thing. I said that to my friend. You've got to get out in nature. If you're not a big exerciser, go and walk. This is why we do it on the beach. Walk in nature, but exercise. We all know exercise. Plow your brain, I said to my mate, into something else. Do you know what I mean? Take it away from that and focus on something new. Hit the gym. If you're not hitting the gym, get a bike, push bike, whatever it is. Get a passion and get out there. And certainly being out in nature, 100% endorse that.
Just smiling here. I heard everything you said. Sorry. Fernando says yes. The medication is definitely working, and the dance off with me at Vocal Booth definitely helps as well. Got a lot of love for Fernando and Lisa. Hi guys. So I mean, we really could. We've been sat chatting for 90 minutes. We could sit and talk all evening, couldn't we? And that's the beauty of it. Just being able. You can feel 10 feet tall, feeling Gossy. I guarantee you've definitely helped more than one person tonight. Who was I reading earlier? I think it was Gaynor who was saying, let me scroll back up, was saying with two young but not young children. Yeah, she says, 2 sons, your conversation, sharing personal situations has been invaluable and will help and share Sorry, I've just read that, slaughtered your comment, but thank you, Gaynor, for the comment. But yes, you saying thank you for opening up and sharing that, because again, neither of us are pretending to be experts, but we have experience in our own rights, in our own ways. I haven't even touched on it, my own personal experiences around mental health a lot.
But you do, Andy. I was just saying, you've got this vocal booth thing, and you do this stuff. I get this from you. You're always touching on stuff with the Snoopy sounds and all the stuff you do with your friends, and you put out there about your brother, all stuff that you've openly put on Facebook. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But because you're sharing it, you're sharing your stuff, you're putting out, like you said, turning off the music the other day, pissing people off. You're doing your bit by having us on and doing the stuff. You're pushing it as well. So. You've got to take
that's only from experience, because I've said it many times. It's not a selfless act. I get so much from this, and it's nice to give other people the opportunity to speak. But it's only experiences that I've had down the years that I realise just even. It's always the way that I've been as a DJ as well. Little experiences, because as you know, Si, getting to do a lot of things that other DJs wouldn't do. We've traveled all around the world, but I've never really considered myself to be like a huge DJ. But then other people say, mate, you're up there. So if I can give someone an experience to say, look, I'll do a mix, I'll go live on my page, and I'm struggling to get 3 people to a mix, for example. So if that can happen to me, who's perceived to be a big DJ back in the day, and other people aren't getting it, you just try and relate, make people relatable, make them understand. And so with all these conversations, and there's so many other different topics that we're going to be talking about. People are just saying, they loved it. Also, I'm sorry, I did see my friend Simon, Mr. Ures, commenting earlier. Thank you for your comments, my friend. And when we finish talking, I'm going to scroll through and say a shout out to everybody. So, right, I think I'm going to wrap up, guys, because we've been talking for a while, and we can do this again at some point. Great guest to have on, very engaging, very entertaining. I'm sure you'll enjoy reading back all of the comments. Any final words that we want to wrap up, or have we said everything?
No, just try and be aware, just guys, I'm talking to, anyone out there, really just try and be aware of anyone you see a little bit off kilt, a little bit off camber, just have a conversation. And like Gossy said earlier, really ask them, are you okay? Pull them to one side, if you're in a public environment, say, are you all right, mate? Or a woman, if there's women out there listening as well, do you know what I mean? Are you all right? Are you really all right? What's going on? Mm-hmm. That's my biggest thing.
Wonderful. Gossy?
Yeah, I get the final. I concur with what Si just said. The other thing I would just say is just encourage people to talk, because just talking to whoever, whether it's family member, friend, whoever, if you can encourage your kids to talk, your partner to talk, your mum, your father, your brother, your sister, whoever, just to have an outlet to talk gives people that, and you shouldn't be ashamed or embarrassed to talk. You should just be able to talk. And
you're not alone, and you are not unique.
Yeah,
that's the bit. You are not alone, and you're not unique, because I can guarantee hundreds of people out there have got stuff going on.
Deep stuff. All right, guys, I'm going to say a few words to say goodbye to everyone. Thank you so much. Truly, truly appreciate it. It's been wonderful. Very, very heartwarming. Thank you very much, guys. Gossy, I'll talk to you in the morning, no doubt. Si,
yeah, no worries.
Respect. Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in.
See you later.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so there go the lads. Colin, don't underestimate. There are people watching and listening to this who may not comment or engage, but they are now at least thinking about what you said and may reach out after this session. Well done for energizing this very important discussion. Silently and invisibly, you will be helping way more people than you know. Thank you for those beautiful words. Carla as well. If you think, feel, sense someone isn't okay, chances are they are not. Everyone has demons, and the cure is to share it. Big love to you, men. Thank you for that. Right, let me scroll all the way up. I'll say thank you for commenting. Mr. Williams, Cliff Williams, Fernando was here. Angel as well. My lovely wife. Scott, I mentioned. Claire King, if you're still with us, hi. Mr. Reed, Tara as well, thank you for your comments. I did see them earlier. I'm sure you'll all appreciate. I didn't want to interrupt the guys. Mr. Jackie Black, who I mentioned. Amy Tate passed through to say hi. Carla as well, shedding her knowledge. Thank you for that. Mr. Ures, thank you, Simon. Nice to hear from you. Sid as well on YouTube. Respect, good friend of Gossy's. Prue sharing some words as well. And Derek, hi to you, my friend. Scrolling down. So many comments. Thank you all for your energy. To Gainer as well. I think I've said hi to everybody that was there. And we had a lot of other people passing through as well. Lindsay, I did mention. Arkin, Fernando, everyone giving a round of applause. Errol Jones, how you going, my man? Nice to see you. I did actually see Tito as well. He popped in and missed it. You can always watch the recording. Don't worry about that. And Jackie Black says he would definitely be more outward in asking mates there if they're okay. And then we get a message from Restream saying, congratulations, you've had 100 messages today. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Tuesday evenings, 7 o'clock, we'll have some deep discussions. We'll have some light-hearted discussions. We will have some great memories to share. And next Tuesday on the show, I'm going to be talking to another two gentlemen, recounting the tales of the second city in our series, Brum as Fuck. You definitely do not want to miss that one. I'll be sharing a link to that after the show with the names of the guests. Remember Bond's nightclub? We got the full lowdown on how that all came about. Make sure you're here next Tuesday. Thank you, Colin, again, and Sid with us on YouTube. Right, guys, I'll take it. I say it every week. By the time I've sat listening to everybody else, I'm conscious of taking up too much of your time. I could quite easily sit here talking to you all night because I love the engagement, but I shall bid you farewell. If you are watching the recording and you haven't yet commented, then please do leave a comment, because both Si and Gossy will be more than happy to read your thoughts. And on that note, I'm just going to press this button and bid you farewell. Respect.